Evening everyone, welcome to Keeping It LCFC Drive Time. First video in a while, mainly because with the winter break, there wasn't really a lot to talk about. So I put out a tweet earlier on, got a massive 1 like on it, about things I could think about to talk about today. Now, first one, sort of racism in football and sort of in general really. Let me just try to stop that wobbling about. Number 2, draw with Wolves. Number 3, potentially not having a defensive midfielder for the Man City game. Number 4, Man City's potential European ban. And number 5 is Aston Villa moaning about a VAR decision. So I'm going to kick off with number 5. It's a nice and quick one. I think it's hilarious. Was it a penalty? Nah, he does get the man first. It's one of them. You're fuming if it's against you. You're screaming for it if it goes for you. And the fact is, it's against Aston Villa. Dean Smith's crying about it. I think it's hilarious. Unlucky. Okay? The decision that we got at Villa Park was embarrassing. And he come out and said yesterday something like everyone in the stadium could see it wasn't a penalty or whatever. Well, everyone in the stadium, everyone who watching on TV could see that Marvellous Nakamba handballed it for the James Maddison shot. Everybody apparently except for Mike Dean and Lee Mason. So unlucky Villa, stop crying about it, get on with it, go again next week. Bosh, number 5 out the way. I'm going to go with point 1, racism in football. Now, I'm going to go with this one because I think it's the most important one really. Although I don't look it, I am mixed race. I do have Sri Lankan sort of bloodline in my family, so I have been to some extent racially abused in the past. Nothing in comparison to what a lot of others have been through, but until you've been discriminated against for whatever reason, it could be religion, could be your beliefs, could be a gender-based discrimination, until you've been discriminated against for something that's out of your control or something that's about you, it's difficult to know exactly how it feels, but it just can make it, you know, it can cause an anger in people. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's been quite a high profile incident in Portugal yesterday night of a goal being scored. I'm assuming he's had some racial abuse sort of throughout the game. He has responded by scoring a goal, put his team 2-1 up. He's gone running over to the fans, pointing at his skin colour, or I sort of saw it, the celebration actually, as him saying, get it in my veins, I've just put my team 2-1 up. But I know the people I've spoken to have sort of said, nah, he's pointing at his skin colour. You can hear quite clearly monkey chanting of some description going on, chairs being thrown at him, so seats being ripped out, being thrown at him. And then what got me and what really gets me about this is the way that his teammates behave once he's made a decision to say, nah, I'm leaving the field. To try and stop him and to physically keep grabbing him, getting in front of him, sort of arguing with him really about what he's chosen to do as his course of action. I find it a little bit upsetting. If that was Leicester, let's say, and it's Yuri Tillemans, it's Wes Morgan, it's Ricardo Pereira, if any of those players decided during any game, doesn't matter how big, how small it was, if any of those players stood there and said, you know what, I'm not putting up with this anymore, I'm taking myself off the field, I would fully expect every single one of the players on the field and Brendan Rodgers to totally back that player and walk off with them. And to some extent, in this country, I'd like to think that the opposition's players would do the same, okay? Because it's something that cannot just be allowed to happen, or just stand up, just ignore them. It doesn't work, it hasn't worked, and it doesn't stop it, okay? This stay strong in the face of racism, don't let the racists win by letting them take away the game, etc, etc. Continuing to play the game is allowing the racists to win, in my opinion. That's what I feel, because they're going anyway, they're going to watch football, they clearly like football, okay? What they want is the football match, what they want is that experience of being in that crowd, that mob mentality, that buzz from watching football, but they're racist. So by allowing the games to just carry on as if it's not happening, it's like just trying to sweep it under the carpet or whatever. It doesn't work. Okay, okay? You need to take away what they want. What they want is the game. So you take the game away from those people. Now, it's quite a difficult thing to do, to identify individuals or groups. It can be done, but for me, my sort of straight off the top of my head approach to this would be: player hears racist abuse, whatever, game is stopped straight away. If you can identify an individual or a group of individuals straight away, they are ejected from the ground. If you can't, the player or the players will know roughly a section of the crowd they believe it's coming from. That section of the crowd is emptied. Unlucky. If you're in it, you're out. Okay, if you're in that section, I'm sorry, we're emptying this section. There's been racist abuse from this area. We cannot decide who it is. We cannot identify fully who it is. On this occasion, we're emptying this little bit. The game's going to carry on after. If that happens, you will find people that are in that area that aren't being racist a lot more forthcoming in saying, look, you know, anonymously, I would have thought, because I would imagine that these people that are being racist tend to be the more ultra / sort of intimidating sort of fans, those sort of fans that like to get overly aggressive at football. So for some people, they don't want to be seen to be grassing that element of support up, but they'll be more likely to do it if they feel like what they want is being taken away from them as well. So that's how I would deal with it. I would, you know, during the game, stewards, police move in, this section of the crowd is being emptied. Once it's emptied, the game carries on, and you'll either see people stop using racism during football. It's not going to stop people being racist, but it's going to stop it at football, okay? And it's going to make people that are in that section that aren't necessarily racist start thinking, do you know what, if I just keep sitting here and allowing it to happen, then I'm as bad, not necessarily as bad as the racist, but I'm allowing it. By my non-action, I'm facilitating the racism, okay? Something I've also said quite a lot about racism in general is that it's not born into someone. It's not innate into us. We are not born racists, okay? It's not something that's an instinct in us. An instinct is not to be racist, okay? It's not a thing. And the reason I say that is because if you watch kids with no external sort of outside influences, if you watch kids, they will just play together. They will not discriminate between black, white, Asian, Hispanic, anything. They will just play with each other, okay? Same with disabilities. At a young age, they don't even notice it. Most of them, they'll just play, they don't see it, okay? It's only once we become older and we start to learn from those around us that these things are different, these things are highlighted, that it becomes an issue, okay? So, and it could be something really simple. So let's just say, we'll go to Italy for this, because Italy has a bigger problem, I think, than others do. They have their ultras for a lot of their clubs, and it tends to be those ultras that tend to have that racist element within them. Now, for me, people want to be part of that ultra group because it's an identity. It's they do create, aside from the racism, an intimidating atmosphere. They're very loud, they sing, and a lot of people buzz off that. A lot of people want that at football. So if you've got young guys, young girls, and they want to be part of that, they might see that racism as a way in, because there's no punishment for it. The clubs might get a fine, but it's not doing anything. International level, they get one pointless game behind closed doors, which makes no difference. All the actions they're taking at the moment don't work. The free strike rule doesn't work, okay? It's not working. It'll never work. It's basically saying, you can be racist twice, but the third time we're going to stop it. It has to be more hardline, okay? It has to be more hardline approach. People have got to come together. If it's going on, like I say, the best way to do it, what these fans want when they go to football is to watch football. They don't want to pay for their season ticket or £40-50 to go to a game and to have it taken away from them. Okay, you take that game away from them, I believe they'll stop doing it. Like I say, it's maybe not necessarily going to stop this person being racist, but if you can identify groups and individuals out of it, then you have the opportunity to educate them, because what they're doing is just incorrect. It's just out of order. It shouldn't be happening in football. It shouldn't be happening in life. Racism should have been gone so long ago. As a society, we've come along a massive way with technologies, of everything, but like the racism thing or discriminating against someone's religious beliefs or their nationality or what they look like, etc., etc. Like, and especially with social media accentuates it a lot, because it's so easy to sit on your phone and send something racist or discriminatory against someone. It's so easy to sit there and do it behind your keyboard, behind your phone, and you might need just, you know, some people just think, oh, I'm just having a joke, or don't really mean it. Then don't say it, okay? We've seen this weekend, you know, a young woman take her life, probably based on the amount of pressure and grief she's getting from the media, and probably to some extent through her social media. Okay, now I know a lot of people, having coached and worked with young people, social media is a big part of their lives. Those messages, those negative tweets, Instagrams, anything, it could be about anything. Like girls are a lot worse, I think, than boys. They're horrible to each other on social media, usually based around looks or someone's sexual orientation or sexual habits. They can be real nice to each other, and it affects people. Okay, it does affect people, and some people don't know a way out. There was a few tweets that Matt Piper put out, like a little thread about, you know, how he wishes he could have spoken to Caroline Flack before, because, you know, he's been at that crossroads, I guess, that end point, that final decision, and he'd made a different choice. And obviously, unfortunately, Caroline didn't. But again, it comes down to whether you've been racially abused. You don't know what it feels like. If you've never been in that situation of believing that is the only decision you have left to make, then you can't make comment on whether or not they made the right or wrong decision, or whether they should or shouldn't have done it. But just, especially on the internet, just think about what you're saying to people, how it might come across, and just like, if you've got nothing nice to say to anyone, it's so simple. It's something that a parent would say all through growing up. If you've got nothing nice to say, don't say it. What's the point of being nasty to someone? What are you getting out of it? What is the end product of being horrible to someone? There's nothing for you. There's no positive in it. It's just a negative emotion. So, going back to my overall point on the racism thing, okay, very, very disappointed with the way that the Porto players reacted to Marega deciding to leave the field. Like I say, I would love to think that if it had been a Leicester player, they all would have gone off with him. There has to be a stronger stance from FAs all over the world. Like, we're not perfect in this country. Our FA is awful at dealing with racist abuse. They're weak. They lack conviction with it. It's a joke how racism is treated in football in this country, in society in general. You know, it's just something that needs a much harder line on it to get it dealt with. Okay, so we'll move on from that. We will move on to the 0-0 draw at Wolves. Now, first of all, we'll go through the positives. We didn't lose. We kept Wolves to no goals in their own backyard. First time that's happened this season. We've not gained or lost any ground on Wolves. We sort of remained as a neutral. Depending on how the result goes tonight as well, let's say Chelsea, Man United draw, it's another game chalked off. It's another game where we've maintained our status in third position. The negative, obviously, Hamza Chowdhury being sent off. It's one, I've seen both tackles, and I just think I can see why the second one's given as a yellow. I'm not sure whether I would have given it on a personal level. The first one for me is not a yellow because I think he wins the ball. It's a strong challenge, the first one, but he wins the ball. He's not endangering an opponent. He's won possession of the football. So the first yellow card for me is the one that really gets people and I think is unfair. I feel like, as I tweeted out after the game, that the Premier League in general, there's a lot of managers that don't like Hamza Chowdhury. There have been comments made about him. Supporters don't like him because they believe that his tackling is dangerous, or in some way he's endangering players with his tackles. For me, that isn't Hamza Chowdhury. Hamza Chowdhury is a strong tackler. He's a very, very physical player, but he's not trying to be dangerous. He's just trying to be physical in a contact sport. in a sport which has gone completely the other way at times. He's a little bit of a throwback. In the 90s, he'd have been absolutely praised for making those sort of challenges, and nothing would have been done about it. I know the game has changed, but it shouldn't have changed so much that you can't make contact with other players during a tackle, especially if you're winning possession first. If you're endangering a player in your challenge, i.e. it's reckless, you've gone in studs up or two-footed or whatever, then I can completely understand the need to yellow card and red card players, even if they get the ball first. But that first yellow card is ridiculous for me. It should never have been given. He should never have got sent off. Unfortunately for us, he has. The negatives from the game for me, or the other positive would be actually that we defended really, really well to get nil out of it. There was chances they should have scored. Wolves should have won that game. I completely disagree with the offside taking away of the goal. Wolves should have taken 6 points off of us this season, in my opinion. In the first game, the goal is allowed for the handball. I don't agree with it. It should have been a goal. And then again yesterday is another one of those. There's no advantage to be gained by what he did, so he wasn't gaining an advantage over the defenders. I know by the letter of the law it's offside, so I can completely accept it as an offside. I just don't like it. I don't like how we're nitpicky about these sort of decisions. That for me is not what football's about. For me, I've said before, VAR should have only been used for the out and out obvious errors. Okay, so I've mentioned it again before, the Aubameyang goal against Man United, which the linesman flagged for as being offside, but Slabhead was playing him massively onside. So that's my thoughts there with the sort of the negatives, or the positives rather. The negative of it is we're just not creating very much. Over the last probably, I would argue maybe since the Norwich draw, or that was the game for me that it started, we just lacked a zip. Our passing is pedestrian. We're a bit slow. We are a little bit one-dimensionally at times. Like, we don't seem to have that, I don't know, like the Southampton 9-0. Like, I know Saints completely pretty much capitulated themselves, that we were popping that ball around so fast, so quick, one touch, in and around, creating spaces, and Vardy was involved in that. So I can't understand why he's only getting 20 touches in 90 minutes in another game. Like, we're not utilising him enough. It's like we've just completely forgotten how to play football at times, especially in the final third. We've just got no ideas about what we're supposed to be doing with the ball. It's just not working. Something for me is out. Something's wrong with either the tactical setup or just how we're being asked to play. Like, we've had loads of possession. We've had 63% possession in that game. What have we done with it? Nothing. We've done almost nothing with it. So everyone goes on about, trying to spin it into positive with the same amount of shots as you, same amount of shots on target, whatever. They had less possession than us, so they were more efficient in the possession they had, and they should have scored. They were wasteful. Jimenez should have had a couple. They were wasteful in possession, in their chances. It should have been a win for them. We were just, I don't know, we've just lacked something, and I think in January we were all crying out for a new creative spark, someone in attack on the wing that can do something a little bit different, that might reignite that sort of fire a little bit, that we've lost since just before Christmas. We've had some alright games in between there. West Ham we played quite well, Newcastle we played well. We didn't play well against Brentford in the Cup. I know it was a much changed side. We played okay against Aston Villa, but again we couldn't break down their back three to create those sort of clear-cut opportunities for ourselves. Something's not quite right for me. Something's not clicking. We're not playing that well. And don't get me wrong, we're not playing well and we're picking up draws. Like, in general against Chelsea, we didn't play great in that first half. We got ourselves in front, and then unfortunately we just defended poorly from set pieces, which again was an issue against Wolves. Now, I know there was something that came out, I think, after the Chelsea game, of someone looking at our set piece defending and going, actually, it's not a problem, look at the stats, we can see X amount of goals. But I feel like we've been figured out. Whatever we're doing to defend set pieces, we're getting figured out, because Wolves and Chelsea both created, and in Chelsea's case, scored from set pieces. Like good opportunities, clear-cut opportunities from crosses into the box and set pieces. The crosses into the box thing, well, it irritates me a little bit with Schmeichel. I'm a big Schmeichel fan. I don't think we're going to be able to go out and get any better. I think he's the best choice keeper we've got. I think he's exceptional. He's definitely a top of the Premier League caliber keeper. But his command of the 6-yard box, he's not the only keeper in the Premier League that does this either. They're just not very good at it. I don't know what's happened to keepers, but they just don't want to come and claim a corner. They don't want to come and take a ball. Now, even at like grassroots level, I would always say 6-yard box is yours, keeper. On any set piece, free kicks, corners, anything. 6-yard box is my keeper's ball all day, and I want him to be going in there, and I want him to be winning that ball, taking all the pressure off the defence. But it doesn't happen, and Schmeichel doesn't do it, and other keepers don't do it. They tend to stay rooted, or they make late decisions to come and try and win a ball that they shouldn't be coming to win. So for me, that's an area that he could definitely do better on, is being a bit more decisive and in control of that situation. Come and claim it. It takes a bit of pressure off the defence, and then allows that defence to maybe pick up more of the players running in, the runners. But I'd like to see, like I say, I just feel maybe we've been found out a little bit in terms of our set pieces, what our setup is, what our defensive setup is in terms of it, and the other teams are pinpointing weaknesses within that and creating opportunities for themselves. We don't score enough goals from set pieces either, but I think that's always been the case for Leicester as long as I can remember. Even when we had the likes of Elliott, Taggart, Walsh, Sinclair, Wayne Brown, Jack Hobbs, we'd never score enough goals from set pieces. It just never happens. I don't know why, it just never does. But yeah, so the draw, I'll take a draw, especially if I'm going down to 10 men. We'll take a draw, we move on. Man City is huge because, one, they're playing midweek this week, and they've got Real Madrid the week after, or in the week after. So they've got like a midweek, a weekend, and a midweek game. They know they can't win the Premier League. They will be targeting Champions League. I feel they will be looking to target the Champions League. It doesn't mean they're going to go weak against us. I don't think Man City have got a weak squad, but I feel that they may not have their grade A players out. They might surprise me and go completely full strength, as strong as they can. And if they do, then I still feel like if we get ourselves right and we believe more in what we can do rather than worrying about what they're going to do, then we've got the ability in this team to beat them. As we've proved before, we can beat Man City. Even when we were playing awful football at times, we've beaten Man City in really good games. So it's a game for me. I'd like to see us worry more about what we can do to them rather than the other way round. Obviously, you want to keep your back door shut, but we were worrying so much about keeping our back door shut at the Etihad that we completely lost any ability to go forwards. Same as against Liverpool. The Liverpool game at the King Power, we were as an attacking threat, we were non-existent. Because we were just, all right, we're going to not let you score. That, to me, yeah, you've got to have an element of that solid defensive shape, but you have to, especially as a team that wants to be top 4, you've got to start trying to score against these teams. You've got to start trying to go out and win these games rather than just going out not to lose them. So for me, against Man City, I'd like to see us go out to try and win the game, probably like a 60-40 split. So 60% try and win it, 40% keep the door shut, make sure we're solid in defence. Because I think we're good enough. Like I say, with Man City probably having one eye on the Champions League game in midweek, they might not be at full strength. We've got the ability to beat them. Whether we do or not is neither here nor there at the moment. We'll have to just wait and see. Obviously, at the moment, as things stand, we're going into that game without a defensive midfielder, because Mendy and Chowdhury are definitely both out, and Didi is a big question mark. For me, I don't want to rush Ndidi back, because I feel like with a knee injury especially, that if you don't allow a knee injury to heal, it's just going to keep coming back, it's going to keep coming back, going to keep coming back, and we're just going to now have a player who's constantly picking up little injuries. So if he's not 100%, then I wouldn't start him. Okay, I'd be looking to play a Dennis Pratt with Yuri Tillemans in the middle, Maddison in front. You know, we've got ball players there, and actually Dennis Pratt's tackle stats per 90 minutes are pretty good. He has shown, from what I've seen of him, he's got an ability to tackle, but he also has ability in possession. He can drive forward. He does have a bit of an engine in him to get him up and down the field. That's how I would set up personally. If indeed he's not 100%, then for me, Dennis Pratt plays the centre midfield next to Yuri Tillemans, and that's how we set up. If indeed he is fit and we can guarantee he's 100% fit, then obviously he goes in next to Yuri Tillemans into the holding role. There is no one better than Wilfred Ndidi at playing in the defensive midfield role, so that's where he goes for me. That's how I would want to see us set up. So if we go into that game without an out-and-out defensive midfielder, then you put Dennis Pratt in. And Ndidi, I think, either way will be on the bench. Possibly Matty James, but I'm not sure whether Brendan would want to put Matty James on the bench, given he's not played many games, and it'd be a bit of a baptism of fire to bring him straight in against Man City. I just don't think he'll do it. Other one we're going to cover is Man City's potential ban from Europe. Now, this one is one of those where you look at it and your first instinct is to laugh about it, because it is quite funny, and I actually hope it does happen, just as a selfish Leicester fan point of view, that it means that we've got an extra place that we've got to worry, like less place we've got to worry about catching us, because it's technically going to be the top 5, because Man City will probably finish in the top 4, but if they're not allowed in the Champions League, then it goes to 5th, etc. If they are banned, then Aston Villa already in Europa League next season, so that's great for them. And it would just be funny because Riyad Mahrez this season has come out with that he wasted years at Leicester City, not at the top level, and I just think it'd be funny if he's got to lose 2 years of Champions League football if he stays at Man City. Would he then say that he lost 2 years of his career at Man City? But the other thing about this is, now, I don't know what exactly they're alleged to have done, how they've come out of it. Apparently it's got something to do with some young lad in Germany that hacked some sort of Man City account. He's awaiting trial or something, I don't know. But for UEFA to follow through with this, to actually come out and say this is what we are doing, they must feel they've got a pretty rock solid case against Man City, that even though, because they probably knew when they bought this that it would be going to CAS. They have to have known the City wouldn't just go, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough, we'll take the 2-year ban and the £30 million fine, no dramas. They must have known that as soon as they put that ban in, those stipulations in, that straight away Man City would want to appeal it. So again, they must feel they've got a very, very strong case against Man City. If it goes to CAS and it all falls apart, UEFA are going to look stupid. I just feel though that they're not going to be able to follow through on the European football ban. I think there'll end up being some form of compromise. The fine will probably definitely be there. The slap on the wrist fines. 30 million quid to Man City is not that much. Hey, it's a hell of a lot of money, but it's not going to be as much as they would lose if they weren't in the Champions League for 2 years, especially given as that could affect current players wanting to stay, it could affect their manager wanting to stay, it could affect potential future transfers not wanting to join Man City and going to rival clubs because they know they're not going to get into Europe. So the ramifications of losing the Champions League place is massive for Man City. I just don't think that UEFA are going to be able to uphold it. I mean, if they are, excellent, because they need to have a bit of a firmer stance on this. And if they're going to do it to Man City, then their next port of call should be knocking on PSG's door and asking for every single file that they've had, because there's no way, and we can all see it, they've signed 2 players for 200 million. How are they financially stable? How are they financially fair playing their way through this? Because they've got wages to pay. They've got transfer fees to pay. How are they getting away with it? So if they're going to do Man City for whatever it is they're going to do Man City for, UEFA have got to be looking at PSG, potentially even Barcelona, because they spend a lot of money as well. Like, if they're going to do Man City and they get Man City for it, and they've got a watertight case, then brilliant. It can be like a line in the sand moment and say, look, this is how it's going to be now, and they're going to get involved with other teams and get onto other teams and bring down the same punishments. With all that said, if that's the punishment for breaching financial fair play, then why is the punishment for racism so poor? It's so minimal. I know it's not a direct team problem, so it's not like this is like Man City as a club, external of all its fans. This is something that they've done wrong. But racist supporters, racism on the field, whatever, needs to carry a more severe punishment. If UEFA are going to hand out this level of punishment for breaching financial rules, and let's be honest, Man City, whatever they've done, they can afford it. Like, Sheikh Mansour's loaded. Like, it's not an issue in terms of actually, does he physically have the money to do this? It's just whether it conforms with UEFA's protocols on financial fair play. So, UEFA, for me, just needs to look at, if they're going to do this for a financial breach, then there has to be bigger punishments for other things. Just to sort of bring it to like the same level, at least, like, because I personally feel like racism is way worse than financial irregularities. So I'd like to see, like, it just needs to be brought up at least to the same level, if not more. Like I say, I know it's harder because fans are external from the club. They're not owned by the club. They're not under club guidelines. Obviously, you have guidelines for your supporters, but they're not directly working for or in and around the club. So I do get that it can't be, UEFA can't be exactly the same on it, but UEFA's, FA's, whatever, they need to be a bit stronger on it. Going forward as well, so we're going into Man City. My hopes that game is that we come out with 3 points. It would be nice to get Vardy scoring again, because he's been a bit missing of late. I don't know if that's his fault. He should have scored against Chelsea. Maybe. Ooh. So he probably should have gone against Chelsea. But he's on a little bit of a dry spell. His worst one in, I think, 3 seasons. Sort of his lowest goal scoring return, or not return, but sort of patch of games for quite a long time. It can't be down to fitness now. We've had a big old break. I just want to see him, us try and utilise him a little bit more. He showed earlier on in the season that he can get involved in the quick zippy passing game, but like I say, I just don't think we're using a quick zippy passing game at the moment. We're very slow, pedestrian. We just lack penetration, we lack transition, we're just not quick enough. I don't know, at the moment I just don't feel like we're a well-oiled machine. We're not a fully functioning team as we can be. I know we've got a lot of young players, and obviously that comes with development. That comes with being able to learn and get older and become fitter and learn from experiences to become better footballers, to become better players, to become a better team. Whatever happens, there's going to need to be additions made to this squad to continue the journey forwards. The news that Hakim Ziyech has signed, subject to personal terms, for Chelsea. It's a player that we've all said as fans for a long time we should be looking at. Don't know if we have been, whether or not he just chose Chelsea over Leicester, or whether we weren't even in for him at all. If we didn't even try, I'd be really disappointed. If we tried and the player just said, look, I'd rather live in London. London's a big deal for a lot of foreign players coming in. It's the biggest city, everything's there, transport links are great. And obviously Chelsea are a club that has a little bit more of that European heritage. At the moment, there's no saying that we can't get it. But we definitely need livening up a little bit in certain areas of the field. It'd be great if we could make some big moves in the summer, assuming we're in the Champions League. So yeah, as an overall sort of finish to the video, you know, things are going really well at Leicester. We're doing great. We're in third position in the Premier League. There's now 12, 13 games left to go, 14 games maybe. There's not a lot of matches left. We just have to remain solid. We've got to keep our heads, focusing on the next game, what we can do. Try not to look too far ahead in terms of, okay, let's write the Man City game off because we've got Norwich coming up or whatever. Trying to look too far ahead of what you're doing, because if you do that and you don't do well in the game that you're targeting, then you've missed an opportunity that maybe you could have picked up points with another team, etc. If you look too far ahead, you trip over what's right in front of you. So for me, we shouldn't even be looking at, like, if I'm Brendan Rodgers at the moment, I should, you know, leave the planning and prep for Champions League or whatever to, you know, the guys higher up that don't have to deal with the day-to-day. We need to be looking at, you know, making sure that we keep ourselves within the Champions League places by just dealing with what's right in front of us, dealing with that next game, that next obstacle, and when you build those little things up and you end up where you end up. So obviously we all want to be there, we all want to get there, but obviously as players, as a coach, I'd be saying, look, let's just focus on Man City, let's prep for that, let's try and find a way of beating them. Can we beat them? What are their weaknesses? How can we get in amongst them? What can we do? Can we learn from the errors, the massive amount of errors that we made against them in the first game? We need to start competing with these teams if we are going to continue to develop. So I'd like to see us do that. And yeah, that's about it. So thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and if you see the link on Twitter, please share it. If you've got anything you want me to talk about or you want my opinion on, then, you know, tweet me, write in the comments. Yeah, cool. Thank you very much.